Over the last 6 years, I have been using the iPad Air 2 as my main tablet. And the reason why I have not upgraded isn't because I didn't think I would not take advantage of the past renditions Apple has released, but simply because the build quality of the iPad Air 2 has stood the test of time. And to be honest, its usefulness over the years have been perfect for me personally. But over the last year, I have seen the performance of the iPad Air 2 take a nosedive, with it no longer holding a charge, the screen separating from its chassis, in addition to a decrease in overall performance due to constant upgrading over the years. So with the release of the new iPad Air 4th generation, I knew an upgrade was warranted. And with the time I have spent with the iPad Air 4, I can confidently say that this tablet is amazing. Welcome to A Day in Tech. My name is Ade, and before we get into the iPad Air 4 review, I would like to first thank you so much for the support received in my first YouTube video. The feedback you have given has further motivated me to continue to share my love of technology with you all. At the end of my first video, I set a goal to hit 100 subscribers by the end of 2020. And with that goal hit, I will be giving away a brand new Model O mouse. Unfortunately, we did not hit that goal at the end of 2020, but considering the fact that we have met and exceeded that goal in January of 2021, I am so happy to announce that I will be giving away that mouse. I will be picking a winner in the next week, so if you haven't already, please go to my first video, like and subscribe to my channel to be entered into that raffle. Now moving along to the iPad Air 4 review, I want to briefly go over what comes in the box. When you open up your new iPad Air 4, you will be greeted with the iPad Air 4 wrapped in a somewhat opaque wrapping. After removing the iPad, you will see the user guide, a couple of stickers, a USB-C to USB cable, and thankfully, a USB-C adapter. The new design of the iPad Air 4, well, at least compared to the iPad Air 2, is very refreshing. The iPad Air 4 comes with Apple's all-screen design, which has a 10.9-inch liquid retina display, which is sporting the True Tone and P3 wide color gamut. Now, for those of you who do not know what True Tone is, simply put, the temperature of the device's display is adapted according to the light sources around it. Now, if that confused you even more, then I want you to think of it this way. When we look at an object, we are not only seeing the object in its own right, but what we are also seeing is the reflection of light that bounces off the object. So for an example, if you are outside and it is the morning time, the light that is reflecting off the surfaces will be redder in comparison to objects that you will see indoors, which usually have more of a pure white light bouncing off the object. Now, the reason why you may not have noticed this ambient light is because our brain does a really good job filtering these colors, giving us an accurate or clearer rendition of what we are seeing. Now, I didn't mean to get too technical there, but while researching this technology, I became a bit fascinated by it and wanted to share it with you all. I will leave a link to an article if you would like to know more about this topic. But moving along to the rest of the design, at the top and to the bottom of the iPad Air 4, you will find the speakers. Surprisingly, the speakers on this device are pretty good for listening to music and also for consuming any and all types of media content. Here, take a listen.
I know this is called a separation. Gotta show them the difference. Hey, this is light swag. I ain't even gonna turn up for real. I hear the music playing, the sirens of peace. The tone can touch the spirit to give a sign of relief. I ain't asked to hit the podium. My little homie said preach. They try to aim at the God, but no harm when they release the garment. Still 3 apiece. We all leaving out of grease. They try to show you the wave, but you running from the grease. Fly through water like a fleet. I watch it fold into the crease. This is shallow with the swag. I make them drag it to the deep. You ain't gotta walk on water. I ain't asked about your feet. Still 2-stepping off the boat. My square planted in the reef. Where I swam became Asia. Where I left is now the east. Now I'm headed down south, cause up north I'm a beast. Hey. If they ever ask, just tell them you Europa. Don't follow me, nigga, I'm a soldier. I'ma tell you once, I'm making a stance, making movements move with the movement of a single hand. Shorty said the music fire, but a change of plans. Kicked out the church choir, trying to make a different band. 100 of the ones, others twiddle thumbs as I make the world connect from a dribble of a tongue. lyrics. The music touched her soul, but it's really for her son. I'm raising them from the sound of my voice. We live in what we create. Why you crying about a choice? She claiming that you the heat. We knowing that you moist. Raising a dead flag, them niggas will never hoist. My cousin touched the end and he ended in prison. My cousin wrote a book, but he wrote it in prison. My nephew said he loved me, he headed to Princeton. Told him be the change that you want, some niggas won't listen. Keep your honor, not go and chase your bag. Never compromise family for the things you never had. Your uncle still in the hood, putting 10 on the gas. Living La Vida Loca, knowing this shit'll crash.
Now that was a dope song by Elvi Europa from Europa Report TV. If you like the tune that you just heard, go check out his channel. That's my younger brother, and I support him 100%. Now back to the top of the iPad, and in the middle, you will find the microphone, and to the top right of the iPad 4, you will find the power button, which also features Touch ID. So let's talk really quick about the new Touch ID feature on the iPad 4. Now at first, after setting up the two fingers I would be using in both portrait and landscape mode, I noticed that there was a pretty noticeable delay after initially laying my finger on the button. But I did notice that over time and with more use of the Touch ID, that the delay shortened to a point that was on par or even better than the original Touch ID on the iPad Air 2, which was pretty responsive to begin with. Not only will you have the ability to charge your iPad with this port, but it is very useful for connecting a USB-C hub, which will enable you to turn this iPad into a productivity powerhouse. I'm going to talk about this a bit more in a few minutes, but on the right side of the iPad Air 4 and near the top of its chassis, you will find the volume up and down button. I do believe that the volume buttons, including the power button, are pretty satisfying and are easy to actuate. The only problem I would be concerned with is if you accidentally drop your iPad on one of those buttons, causing the button to get stuck and pretty much rendering your iPad useless, or at least preventing you from even powering your device off. And this is especially true if you damage both the volume up and down button, as you will need those buttons and the power button to power off your device. Below the volume buttons and to the middle of the side of the iPad Air 4, you will find the magnetic connector, which is used to keep both your Apple Pencil 2 connected and charged. Now, this only works with the second generation of the Apple Pencil, but it works really well. When you are done using the Apple Pencil, you can place it right next to the iPad Air 4, and it will snap to the iPad immediately and begin to charge. On the back and to the top left of the iPad, you will find Apple's 12 megapixel wide angle camera with a respectable f-stop of 1.8. At an aperture this low, it will enable you to get very sharp and clear footage of video and photos in low light situations while giving you pretty good dynamic range and depth of field. Now, I myself have not tested the video and photo capabilities of the iPad Air 4, and this is because capturing photos and videos are beyond my normal use of the iPad. But as I continue to go down this road of creativity, I will delve a bit more into the video and photo capabilities, considering they are quite powerful. One thing I can say is that the front-facing camera is really good, and I mean really good. Far greater than my Logitech C920 webcam and what that produces, considering that webcam is actually pretty good as well. You will not find any problems with visibility while engaging in your Zoom and WebEx calls. Now let's talk about the heart and driving force of the iPad Air 4, and that is the new A14 Bionic Chip with a 64 gig architecture. The iPad Air 4 is sharing the same processor as the new iPhone 12 Pro, which is actually saying a lot. This new chip enables users to experience up to a 30% boost in graphical performance compared to the A12 chip and up to a 40% increase in its central processing unit performance. The reason why this is important to me specifically is because, remember, over the last 6 years, I have been using the iPad Air 2, whose processor is the A8X chip. And according to the benchmarking software Geekbench 4, the Apple A14 Bionic Chip's performance is 412% higher than the A8X processor, which I believe is the main reason why I have been enjoying the iPad Air 4 so much. Part of my testing for the iPad Air 4 was its gaming capabilities, and I cannot exaggerate enough how well this device performed in the games I tested. Many of you know that I enjoy playing Call of Duty on the PC, so once I found out that a mobile version of Call of Duty was available in the App Store, I decided to use a controller for the first time in 2 years and test it out. At first, I tried to test out the new DualSense PS5 controller, but unfortunately at the moment there isn't any support for the iPad Air 4. So I decided to use the Xbox One controller instead, and man, I became immediately hooked. The A14 chip handled this game with ease considering how closely optimized the experience was compared to gaming on a console or PC. With the stereo speakers on each side of the iPad, coupled with this wide color display and powerful A14 chip, the iPad Air 4 provided an experience so immersive that I found myself gaming on it longer compared to being on my PC. So with that said, I am pretty impressed with the graphical and central processing performance of this device. Lastly, I would like to share my experience with the iPad 4's productivity capabilities. Starting off with school, no matter what grade you are in, whether you are in kindergarten or you are in a PhD program, this device is more than capable. This includes tasks such as taking notes, processing a Word document, or manipulating calculations in Excel. No matter what, you will be able to get it done seamlessly. One thing I want to note is that I did experience a bit of fatigue while using the Apple Pencil, but after getting used to the Apple Pencil on the surface of the iPad, I found myself getting used to taking notes on it. Now, what will turn your iPad Air 4 into a productivity beast is having a small USB-C hub. This gave me the ability to connect an external keyboard and mouse to it. With the iPad placed on a raised platform, it definitely mimicked an experience close to working on a desktop PC. My curiosity took me even further when I decided to connect my audio interface into the USB-C port to test out my studio headphones and studio mic, and wow, it definitely worked. With GarageBand, I was able to record a voiceover and play it back. I even tested out listening to YouTube music while recording a voiceover. Now, the recorder did not pick up the music I was listening to, but if you wanted to record over a track, you do have those capabilities as well. Lastly, you can use this iPad Air 4 as if it was your only computer. And with the memory card options available on the USB-C hub you decide to get, you can further expand the memory capabilities of this device if you decide to get the 64 gig option like I did. So, that is all I have for you today. I hope I was able to give you a solid perspective of my experience with the iPad Air 4 over the last few months. I really enjoyed making this video for you all. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, please subscribe, press that like button, and chat with me in the comment section. Answer this one question for me. What do you primarily use your tablet for? Let me know below. But until then, peace.